When you think of the Great Depression, what comes to mind? You may think of job loss or the stock market crash, but you probably don't think about the tiny little bug that wrecked Georgia's cotton industry in the early 1900s. This is the boll weevil. Small, but seriously destructive. In less than a decade, this tiny insect cut Georgia's cotton production in half. Couple that with a major drought, and Georgia experienced its own economic crash before the Great Depression hit the rest of the country. So why was the invasion of the boll weevil so devastating to Georgia's economy? To answer that question, we need to explore the history of the state's cotton production. From the late 1700s to the early 1900s, Georgia's economy was knee-deep in cotton. The state first began producing cotton in the 1700s, but it didn't produce a lot of it. That's because pulling the seeds out of the fluffy cotton fibers was very labor-intensive, time-consuming, and painful. That is until 1793, when Eli Whitney changed the game with his invention, the cotton gin. The cotton gin made separating cotton fibers from its seeds much easier and faster. As a result, Georgia's cotton production exploded, and with it, a horrifying increase in enslaved labor. By the mid-1800s, Georgia and other southern states produced 75% of the world's cotton. Entire cities, complete with banks, schools, and stores, sprang up to support the needs of a cotton-producing area. And even after the Civil War, cotton remained a major part of Georgia's economy. But in 1915, trouble arrived. Tiny, hungry, and relentless. The boll weevil. And that's B-O-L-L, people. We're not talking about bowling here. The insect gets its name from the roundish pod that's part of a cotton plant called a boll. The boll weevil's larvae feed on the cotton plant, destroying the bolls before they can produce fibers. So, no fibers, no cotton. No cotton, no economy. And here's the kicker. They weren't even supposed to be here. The boll weevil migrated from South America in the late 1800s, creeping up through Mexico, Texas, and across the South before hitting Georgia in 1915. Farmers had no idea how to stop them. Georgia's cotton production went from 5 million acres in 1914 to just 2.6 million by 1923. That's half the harvest potential in less than a decade. It was catastrophic. Farms failed, jobs disappeared, people had to leave everything behind. Black sharecroppers and tenant farmers were hit hardest. Many joined what's known as the Great Migration, moving north in search of better opportunities. Similarly, a number of white farm workers left Georgia and moved out west. For those who stayed, many left rural farming towns and moved to cities like Macon and Atlanta to find work. And as if an insect invasion wasn't bad enough, a major drought hit Georgia in the mid-1920s. While some parts of the country were living it up in the roaring 20s, Georgia began slipping into a mini economic depression ahead of the big one. When the stock market crashed in 1929, the Great Depression officially began, and Georgia, already struggling, got pulled into even deeper economic trouble. There was, however, a shiny silver lining to this dark time. Georgia had been so dependent on cotton that the boll weevil crisis forced farmers to rethink their approach to growing and harvesting crops. Rather than producing one crop, they started growing multiple crops like peanuts, corn, pecans, and blueberries. And with more people moving into cities, the manufacturing industry in urban areas was able to take off. So what happened to the boll weevil? It didn't just disappear. By 1983, Georgia's cotton production had dropped by 97%. It took decades for researchers and farmers to find the solution. But eventually, they were able to establish the boll weevil eradication program, a blend of insecticides, advanced trapping, and seasonal adjustments finally did the trick. By the year 2000, the boll weevil was officially eradicated from Georgia. Today, Georgia produces over 1 million acres of cotton every year. But the lesson? Relying too much on one thing can be risky. The boll weevil crisis reshaped Georgia's economy and taught farmers a tough but valuable lesson. Sometimes survival means adapting.